Hey, Jeff White here, recovered alcoholic, restored to health, useful lifestyle. So this next part I want to do is on basically making a grudge list. And what I've learned is there's two things. One thing, I had this life cycle of being pissed off, angry, and upset, waking up that way, and then finding the cure, which was drinking myself into a situation where either I was numb and comfortable, or into oblivion, or into a blackout or a pass out. And there was just that cycle going on all the time. And so when I wasn't under the influence, my brain was constantly just race, just crazy thoughts about people who've wronged me, people who did me wrong, people who outlooked me, out to get me. My boss, I was constantly in fear of my boss and watching every little thing she did and holding that against her. My wife, I would start arguing with my wife just to say she loves to argue. I mean, just constantly just finding reasons to be mad, angry, upset, hurt, and deflated, so I can just have this torment in my head, and my head would have these conversations with like, she's out to get me, I better watch out, I better find somebody else before she leaves me, I'm going to show her before she, it's just on and on and on and on. And so what I learned after I stopped drinking, that really didn't go away. That didn't really go away. I mean, it was there, and the cure went away though. The cure for that crazy brain went away, the drinking, and now I'm stuck with myself with these thoughts. So there's two things. There's one that was there's the system of living that was functional under those pretenses, and now the cure was taken away, and I had to find a new cure. So what this is a list to help identify and look at and see those things that help us be crazy and drives us to that and keeps the whole cycle going over and over again. The second thing is it's a way to stratify. You know, I'm living here. This is the level I'm living at, and there's all this thought process, really, of crazy thinking that's pushing that down. And how do I get that thought process that's suppressing and pushing my abundancy of life down? How do I shrink that crazy, evil, wicked, monstrous, demonic, whatever you want to call it, thinking? How do I shrink it, so that weight that's pushing stratified me down is being lifted, and that true nature can keep rising, growing, and you can mature into your next development of the next stages of your life, right? And that's what we're always trying to strive for. Well, so what we're trying to get to is the thinking that drove you to mindless behaviors, like driving home from work. That way it's my house. That way it's the grocery store. Going straight to the grocery store, going in, buying a pack of gums, $20 cash, going back over to the vodka aisle, buying a small bottle of vodka so I can hide it, cheapest kind so it doesn't cost very much, using the cash so my wife can't find it, buying the vodka, making sure I take the receipt, throwing the receipt away, hiding the vodka in my trunk in the parking lot, driving home, parking in the garage, go into the house, eat dinner. I'm a grown man, by the way, 38. I'm going to go work on some project in the garage. I'm going to drink this O'Doul's beer here and relax for a while. You got anything you need to do? Going back into the garage and then trying to get into my trunk, closing the trunk, drinking the vodka. You know, that's like crazy pattern of behavior that was the whole day, and I had to set it all up to think about it all. I was driven to do that. I had a fuel of thoughts and craziness that drove me, that fueled me to have that. That's lunacy. Grown man, 38 years old, doing that kind of behaviors. That's a fuel. Those are emotions. Those are thoughts and processes that are just fueling me. If I drop a hammer on my finger and I smash it, I get a lot of emotions. Like there's the emotions turn on, and for me, it turns into anger. Like hammer, right? But then an hour later, it's gone, right? I watch a sad movie, I cry, and 5 minutes later, it's gone. Those are emotions, right? I get into an argument with my wife, I get upset, I get heated today, and I'm like, this is crazy, I'm out of here. And I walk outside and I drive down the road. I'm like, I got nowhere to go. I really like my wife a lot, and our house is kind of comfortable. I'm going to go back home and say I'm sorry. That's an emotion, right? Like, it goes away quickly, and it doesn't drive me. It doesn't fuel my behaviors for hours or maybe days or sometimes a whole week, right? So that's what we're trying to get to. We want to turn those emotions that have been fueling us for years, in some of our cases, back into emotions, turning them back into emotions, put them back where they belong. One of the best things I like reading in the AA book, it talks about like we've lost the right to be angry, and I totally relate with that a lot. And a lot of times, I try to I talk to people and I say, there is justified anger, there is justified anger. When 9/11 happened, the towers fell down. That next day, the whole country was angry, and it was justified, right? There is justified anger. In the book, it talks about, hey, we alcoholics have lost the right to be angry, and I totally get it, because when I was drinking, and shortly thereafter when I got angry, it was like life changing. Like, I'm ready to go to jail for the rest of my life. This situation, this topic, this situation is so important to me. It's so passionate to me. Hell, everything. I'm going to go. I don't care what the consequences are. That's how angry I am. And I totally get what the book's saying. Like, hey, dude, we're kind of screwed up in this whole angry thing. We kind of lost that right to be angry. I don't know if we ever gain it back after 20 years, 50 years. Maybe we do gain the right to be justified anger back. I'm not sure. But as it says on the screen, that grudges, hurts, and resentments, those are the things that kind of fuel our anger. Like when we get hurt, somebody hurts our feelings, we're very fragile. We're very big, but our shells are very thin, and they're chink, chink, and it cracks, right? And so we're very fragile as alcoholics, and we get hurt very easily. I can create a grudge. Like, I get an email from somebody, and I don't know the person. They say something wrong, I'm already fine. I'm like, your email is like making me mad. I'm gonna give this email back to you. Send, right? It's like, I'm like, I don't even know this person. They don't know me. They probably didn't even mean to say it the way the email is saying. But I've already got this whole grudge thing going on in my head. And resentments is the last one that really just set us off. Is that we get these resentments. And they're deep, man. They're like a redwood. They're like the tree's like 100 feet tall, but the roots go down like 500 feet, right? You could burn down the tree, but the roots are in there. Our resentments are deep and long and hard, and those are the toughest fuels for us. They get us going, and I've heard of and watched, people, brothers and sisters, fathers and sons, not talk to each other for 7 years because of a resentment. And the resentment probably was real, and it was probably passionate, but it was like, maybe a 2-week anger. Like, you should have been angry for 2 weeks. Like, that's how bad it was, right? 2 weeks is a long time. But during the 7 years, you gotta be careful with us and the resentments, the angers, the hurts. And the last thing is that if I'm thinking crazy all the time, I might be crazy, right? And so we got to examine our thought processes and minimize the crazy thinking so that we become less and less crazy as time goes on. Thank you very much. So this whole video is just supposed to be a motivational video, trying to get you to get to the part 2 of this one, which is the next video, which is the actual work, right? I'm trying to motivate you. I don't know if I'm a motivational speaker or not. I'm trying to motivate you. So this is the crutch of the whole matter, and this is like, if you draw a line between the alcoholic and the recovered alcoholic, the line down the middle is prior recovery. We're doing all of our thinking and all of our thoughts are geared at other people and trying to get them to change their behaviors, change who they are, change how they think, change how they see things, change everything about them, right? And then the line of recovery, whenever that happens, sometimes it happens the day you stop drinking, Sometimes it happens 6 months after you stop drinking. Sometimes it's 6 years after you stop drinking. But the line of recovery is when you stop trying to look out at everybody and you start to look at yourself. You say, no matter how much I think about you changing, you're not going to change unless you want to. But once I start focusing on myself and my thinking, I can actually do something about that. And I can change my behaviors and I can change my thought processes and I can start to mold and change. And a lot of times what I found in my life is the more I've become more compassionate, more loving, more kind, more generous to my wife, you're not going to believe this, but she's becoming more kind, passionate, and generous towards me. So all those times I've been trying to get her to do all those things to be more loving and generous and sweet to me, I've been telling her to do it. It really hasn't worked. But once I started doing it, it was kind of easy for her to do it to me. So it's reversed. Like that line prior, we're always trying to get other people to change, right? And they don't really do it usually, and at least not the way we want them to. But then afterwards, hey, we start to mold and shape and change ourselves. The people around us start to mold, and then you start getting friends who aren't so concerned about certain things, and they're more concerned about enjoyable things. And you start having friends where you actually go out and do enjoyable stuff instead of sitting around arguing, fighting, and being pissed off or doing criminal activities with. So the Serenity Prayer, if you just read the Serenity Prayer, the whole idea isn't really like you have to like totally grasp the serenity and be serene. Really, the whole purpose of the Serenity Prayer is that you stop saying you and you start saying I, right? My serenity, my changes, my wisdom, what I can change, right? Like that's recovery, right? That's the new cure. The old cure was mind numbing. The new cure is fully functional thinking, right? Oh, what a concept. So we go to part 2. We're going to make the list. You're going to work through it. It's totally easier than you think. It's not like a lot of recovery places. They want you to go to childhood and write everything that everybody who's molested you, every dirty movie you ever watched, everything you've ever stolen. And it's not like that at all. It's really looking at, hey, how's my thinking screwing me up? And how can I work on getting better thought processes? And sometimes it happens quickly and sometimes it's slowly. But it's so much better when we start to focus on ourselves changing, not focus on ourselves like I'm thinking about me all the time, but focus on myself changing than me focus on you changing. It's a way better process.